I'm Scott Miller. Welcome to my Top Performance blog. Well, things at ICCE continue to evolve. Membership grows day by day. And just a short while ago, the entire site was updated and revamped. This is the new homepage for the ICCE website. It makes signing up very simple. It also makes signing on, for those of you who are already members, easier. On the International Center for Clinical Excellence website, you can, as always, join hundreds of different topical forums, discuss the latest topics in the field of psychotherapy and feedback-informed clinical work. You can access hundreds of how-to videos and connect with members all over the globe. At ICCE, we are clearly not doing what we've always done. We are continuing to evolve, trying to push the envelope. In fact, we have a whole new website for people who'd like to learn more about the ORS and the SRS. It's called pcomsinternational.com, the official website for the ORS and the SRS. There you can find out information about the measures, the latest research, and you can also watch short videos which describe the feedback-informed treatment process, as well as review the SAMHSA approval that was given to PCOMs in February of last year. The training that ICCE offers is also evolving. For the first time ever, we'll be offering this summer, in the month of August, our 2-day intensive training called Fit for Management. In that training, we will offer the latest research and tips, as well as help people develop a plan for implementing feedback-informed treatment in their setting, agency, or system of care. Over the years, the ideas known as feedback-informed treatment have evolved considerably, and we continue our research here at the ICCE to figure out how we can help therapists achieve the best results possible. The interview you're about to see was done this last summer. Sharon Ökvist from Sweden, a clinician, had many questions about that particular evolution.
So, Scott?
Yes.
I have some questions.
Great.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm always ready for a question.
Well, many years ago,
Yes.
I was told that you could boost the common factors.
Yes.
And at this training, you have told us we can't boost them. So, can you explain the shift?
Let me just give you a little bit of the history of the development of these ideas. Of course, I and all of the team I worked with initially back in the early 90s had been steeped and raised in particular models of therapy. Most know that my chosen model was solution-focused brief therapy. And what happened is we outlined a very specific model with techniques and strategies and an idea about what solved problems. We then invited some researchers in who followed up with our clients that discovered we were effective, but no more effective than anyone else. This created quite a crisis in the team. And the question really was, well, if we're no better than any other approach, are our techniques really relevant? I'd been the research assistant to Michael Lambert. My stats professor at university was Bruce Wampold, and they had spoken to me as a budding psychologist about the common factors that what accounted for the effectiveness of the diverse models of therapy were this common core group of curative elements, the relationship, hope and expectancy, structure and focus, and a huge impact of the world around the client in which they lived. And so one explanation for why we were no different than anyone else was that maybe it didn't have much to do with our techniques. Maybe it had to do with this group of common core factors. And in the mid-90s, we wrote a book about this, Escape from Babel. The book doesn't say you can boost the common factors. What it actually says is that common factors were a way that therapists from different theoretical orientations could talk about things. So you may confront a client's dysfunctional thoughts. I may ask the miracle question. But both of what we're trying to do builds on these common core elements. It's the DNA of therapy. We continue to explore the idea of these common factors, and with the hope, I believe, that therapists could then share and talk, and their outcomes would be enhanced by blending from other approaches, borrowing because since all models were equally effective and they all worked because of the common factors, then maybe instead of sticking rigidly to your approach, you could say, I could borrow from that one and this one if that better helped my client. This, we knew, was the way most therapists eventually worked anyway. Most therapists with time became more eclectic in their practice. The common factors were a way to simply say, that's okay. And the truth is, you can't use the common factors to tell you what to do. They're common. The minute you go from how do you build an alliance, you have to go back to a model. And there, I think, was some confusion in our team about this. So, for example, we talked and we published an article about what was being called the client's theory of change. I liked the idea a great deal. The notion was clients had a theory. If you could find out that theory, you would have a stronger alliance. The alliance was the common factor. The notion about theory of change was a specific factor. And as a result, it started to blur the lines between what was now a model of therapy. Some were saying you need to focus on client strengths. That certainly comes out of my tradition of solution-focused therapy. But again, that's when you enter the model. And I've not been interested in models since I decided that it wasn't the model per se that made a difference. You need a model to do the therapy. What's really critical is, did it work and help your client? Which is why I suggested to the team early on, because that's what my mentor had been doing, Michael Lambert, my mentor Lynn Johnson, person that supervised me for several years when I was living and going to school in Salt Lake City. He said, why don't we ask the client about the relationship? And he was really the first person that developed the session rating scale.
Because I've also learned about that, the client's theory of change.
Yeah.
And now it's client's preferences.
Right, exactly. This is, I understand the confusion completely, and I think our work in many ways post the first edition of The Heart and Soul added to people's confusion about it. In 1999, Mark Hubble and I, one of the co-authors of the book, were expressing concern about this, that somehow people had the idea that we were suggesting they think about the common factors before they do their work. Well, that turns them again into a model. What I tell people is, you need to do what you usually do and see, did it work or not? And if it's not working, then you should think about the alliance. Why? Because it contributes so much to the treatment. If you start the other way, it becomes an alliance-based model of care. Well, we don't need another model. We've got 400 plus models. Pick one that you like, that fits you, and helps you deliver an effective treatment to that particular client. The measures really address failures in outcome and failures of engagement. When the client fills out the SRS, they're telling us whether or not they were engaged by our ideas, how we structured the therapy hour. What's really critical about the SRS is it tells us, I, as the client, am not engaged in the content we talked about here today, in what we did together. And so we're securing the client's engagement with us and hopefully contributing to a better working relationship.
Is feedback in itself a common factor? Because I've seen a diagram where the feedback in itself was like a common factor.
Well, the minute you start down this path, the common factors become kind of, the meaning of them becomes watered down. So breathing can be a common factor. Talking is a common factor, since most therapies engage people's voices. I mean, where does this stop? All therapies do not include feedback. They just don't. But all therapies include the alliance, extra therapeutic factors, placebo, hope, and expectancy. So, no, I don't see feedback as a common factor. In fact, I see feedback as a way to ensure one of the common factors, the strength of the alliance.
The SRS is primary an engagement tool.
Yes.
Yeah. So why measure it at all?
Well,
why try to interpret scales and stuff if it's just, administrating it?
That's a great question. One is that it gives us a ritualized way to check the engagement, because I don't care how people engage their clients. This is just one more way to do that.
But the measure, what does it bring to it then? And the graphs? Formality.
It's a structure. It's part of the technique, it's part of the strategy. That's a common factor. You have some structure and focus. This gives us a way to organize and do it formally. If you don't have it formal, then we tend to forget, or we assume that we are engaged.
You have said that the scales don't improve us as therapists.
No.
Yeah.
Feedback, the measures as they currently are like a GPS. You may get there, but you don't remember how, and you don't learn the way because you're depending on these measures. And we know, sadly, that therapists don't learn from the feedback. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise to most therapists, because here's what a therapist knows. They're encouraging their clients to reflect on their lives and experiences and make planful changes. Well, if you don't have time to reflect on your practice in response to feedback, to identify what your shortcomings are as a provider, what this client uniquely teaches you, then how could you get any better? So what's crucial in the direction we're going is looking at what kind of practice do therapists need to engage in to take the feedback that they get to the next level, to actually improve their performance. Our study of how top performers are using feedback differently than average performers is heading in that direction. It's really quite exciting.